The vast glass panes of Alexander Volkov's executive suite mirrored the stark March day outside. Soft sunlight, diffused by the room's polished marble flooring, cast an illusion of tranquility that was starkly absent from the young millionaire's spirit. Alexander slowly turned a substantial golden pen between his fingers, his gaze locked onto a beautifully crafted invitation he had just finalized. Every element had been meticulously considered with his signature fastidiousness. The weighty gold foil, the superior paper stock, the sophisticated typeface, all spoke of affluence and standing. Yet, beneath this polished exterior lay a deeper purpose. This particular invitation was destined for Anna Smirnova, a woman he had once cherished, only to leave behind in pursuit of his career aspirations. "I invite you to celebrate the joy of my wedding," the elegant script declared. Alexander fully grasped the unspoken subtext of his gesture. This was not merely an invitation, it was a deliberate declaration, a statement designed to showcase Anna precisely how far he had progressed in the intervening 6 years. A prosperous entrepreneur, the proprietor of multiple enterprises, a man of considerable wealth, he was now entirely transformed from the younger self who once shied away from significant commitments. His intended bride, Victoria, was the epitome of ambition and societal standing. A young, striking woman from Moscow's elite circles who possessed an intuitive understanding of the intricacies of high-stakes business. With her, he found a comfortable partnership devoid of excessive emotional entanglement or profound attachments. Alexander recollected their final discussion. Anna had spoken of family, of a shared future, of aspirations that extended beyond the superficial. In contrast, he had chosen to focus on the figures in his bank statements, lucrative contracts, and the relentless pace of urban life. He summoned his assistant Maxim to personally deliver the invitation, ensuring its presentation was as solemn and stylish as possible. Maxim nodded, understanding that for his employer this was far more than a mere protocol. A subtle disquiet rippled through his chest, a blend of anticipation and a vague premonition that this action could irrevocably alter the trajectory of his carefully constructed life. His mobile phone vibrated softly, a message from Victoria regarding the final wedding arrangements. However, Alexander's thoughts were adrift in the past, amidst unfulfilled hopes and lingering emotional wounds. He was unaware that this invitation would prove to be a point of no return, that within days his meticulously crafted facade would crumble. For now, there was only the gleaming inscription on the pristine paper and a calculated detachment. The invitation, in a peculiar way, was sent from the heart. The Moscow skyline, visible through the immense office window, seemed to hold its breath. The muted hues of the pre-dawn light began to paint the glass skyscrapers in soft, silvery tones. Alexander remained seated, idly sifting through a pile of photographs, ones he had intended to discard but had never quite managed to. His eyes settled on an image from 6 years prior. Anna was captured mid-laugh, sunlight catching the highlights in her hair. They were entirely different people then, young, naive, brimming with optimism. Memories surged like a tide, filling the office with spectral echoes of bygone days. Their acquaintance had begun at the university. Anna, a dedicated student in the pedagogy program, and Alexander, an ambitious young man already charting his entrepreneurial course. Their budding romance seemed idyllic. He was driven and dynamic, while she was gentle and principled. "We could have been together if you hadn't been so consumed by success," Anna would often say, and she was indeed right. The initial phase of their relationship felt like a thrilling ascent. Late-night rendezvous in the heart of Moscow, earnest discussions about dreams and future plans. Anna believed in him more profoundly than he believed in himself, seeing beyond the future businessman to the sensitive individual within. Gradually, however, something shifted. His business ventures expanded, meetings became less frequent, and conversations grew increasingly brief. Alexander became absorbed in the world of figures, contracts, and opportunities, leaving Anna frequently on her own. Their last significant exchange occurred in late autumn amidst a persistent drizzle while seated in a small cafe near their alma mater. "Do you realize your ambition is destroying us?" Anna had queried. "This is called progress," Alexander had retorted curtly. At that moment, he failed to comprehend the depth of his misjudgment. The allure of success had overshadowed any human connection. Their separation was swift and agonizing. One day, she uttered a final statement and departed, and he continued his relentless pursuit of achievement. The years dissolved rapidly, his business flourished, and his fortune grew in tandem. Victoria entered his life, a beautiful and ambitious woman who fit seamlessly into his established order. Everything appeared to be falling into place perfectly. The impending union with Victoria was intended to be the zenith of his success story. Yet outside his window, the office lights began to illuminate the encroaching day. A new dawn was breaking, heralding a new chapter he had yet to fully comprehend. Alexander placed the old photograph in a desk drawer and activated his computer. Work had always been his sole solace. The Crystal Palace venue, aglow with lights and emanating an atmosphere of expectant preparation, conveyed an impression of flawless elegance. Alexander Volkov meticulously reviewed every detail as if preparing for the most critical business strategy. He perused a catalog featuring the menu, his well-maintained fingers, adorned with an immaculate manicure, gliding gracefully across the pages. "What are your thoughts on this selection?" he inquired, gesturing towards the truffle sauce accompaniment. Alexander offered a perfunctory nod, his mind elsewhere. An persistent inner voice continuously drew him back to memories of Anna from 6 years prior. They could have been here together, meticulously planning an entirely different kind of celebration. "Alexander, are you listening to me?" Victoria's voice pulled him back to the present. "Yes, of course," he replied, offering a practiced smile. The salmon would be exquisite. He understood deep down that this wedding was another calculated element of his meticulously planned strategy. Marrying Victoria was meant to be a natural progression of his successful career. She was a woman who belonged to his professional world, ambitious, discerning, and acutely aware of the value of status. However, he found himself questioning why the wedding planner, Podol, repeatedly returned with additional documentation. Alexander signed each item methodically, maintaining control over every minute detail. His ingrained perfectionism extended to all facets of his life, from business presentations to the wedding ceremony itself. "Mr. Volkov," the planner addressed him, "the final arrangements have been confirmed. Everything is set for tomorrow." A peculiar sense of unease settled upon him, a premonition that tomorrow Anna would witness him as a fundamentally different, prosperous, and seemingly content individual. Victoria continued her discourse on the arrangements, oblivious to his internal turmoil. For her, this was merely another significant social engagement, a crucial event within their social sphere. "Incidentally," she remarked, "I've extended invitations to several influential partners from your company. I believe it will present excellent opportunities for both of us." Alexander nodded again. Even on their wedding day, her thoughts were occupied with networking and potential advantages. Later that evening, alone in his opulent penthouse, he gazed out at the sprawling cityscape. The city lights appeared distant and cold, mirroring his own detached emotions. His mobile phone vibrated. His gaze fell upon an old photograph of Anna tucked away at the back of a closet. Did I truly make the right choices? The thought flickered through his mind. Alexander retired for the night, entirely unaware of the surprises fate held in store. Meanwhile, in her modest apartment, Anna contemplated the invitation. The lamplight softened the room, imbuing it with a warm ambience. She felt a sense of surprise, mingled with a touch of apprehension. "Why am I reacting this way to this invitation?" she mused, sitting at her desk and gazing out the window. "My heart skipped a beat," she murmured to herself as people passed by below. Memories of Alexander flooded her consciousness. On one hand, she felt a sense of pride in her own accomplishments. As a teacher, she infused her students' lives with inspiration daily, guiding them in their exploration of the world, approaching each lesson with affection and care. Yet on the other hand, recalling the future they had envisioned together brought a pang of pain. "Why is it so difficult to let go?" Anna sighed, leaning back in her chair. She resolved to contact her closest friend, Marie. Upon the second ring, she heard her familiar, comforting voice. "Hello, Anna. How are you? It's been a while since you called," Marie greeted her. "Masha, I need to talk to you," Anna replied, attempting to mask her current emotions. Marie sounded surprised. "Are you not currently teaching?" "No, I'm on a break. You won't believe this. I received an invitation to Alexander's wedding." Marie paused. "Do you think this is a good idea? How are you feeling?" Anna sighed and hugged herself. "I can't simply stand still and dwell on the past. It keeps replaying in my mind. I don't know how to feel. On one hand, I'm proud of what I've achieved. I'm a good teacher, and I genuinely have something valuable to offer my students. I won't be ashamed to present myself and discuss how my life has transformed, but I'm constantly drawn back to memories of him." "Listen," her friend interjected tactfully. "You need to decide for yourself what truly matters if you wish to close this chapter. Perhaps attending will be the right step." "You're right. I could simply try it and see how things unfold," Anna said softly. "So, you're going to the wedding?" Anna confirmed with emotion. "I'll go to the wedding to close that old chapter and affirm to myself that everything is all right." "A wise decision," Marie added. "And remember, when you go, you have your own life and your own story. It's just a celebration, not a battle for your heart." Anna let out a small laugh. "Yes, you're right. I have my own life, and perhaps this step will mark the beginning of something new for me." After her conversation with Marie, Anna felt a sense of resolution had finally settled. She composed herself, thinking, "Perhaps I might even meet someone new," she whispered, a faint smile playing on her lips. For the remainder of the evening, Anna experienced a surge of renewed energy and confidence, her mind filled with pleasant anticipation and hopeful thoughts about the future. The grand hall of the Crystal Palace shimmered with an air of solemnity, its crystal chandeliers casting a gentle radiance upon the elaborate floral arrangements. Alexander stood near the altar, his impeccably tailored snow-white suit accentuating a barely perceptible tremor within him. Each passing second of waiting for Anna felt like an ordeal. He cast furtive glances toward the entrance, his heart steadily counting down the moments. Victoria, adorned in a lavish wedding gown from a renowned designer, engaged in quiet conversation with her companions, her cool gaze periodically sweeping across the assembly, appraising the assembled guests. Then Anna appeared, making a graceful entrance in an elegant charcoal suit that accentuated her inner strength and dignity. However, Alexander's attention was immediately drawn to a small figure accompanying her. Beside Anna stood a boy, approximately 6 years of age, with dark hair and strikingly familiar facial features. A profound tremor ran through Alexander, and his breath hitched. A peculiar hush fell over the proceedings. The guests seemed to freeze, sensing a subtle tension that had suddenly permeated the atmosphere. "Anna," Alexander said softly, his voice barely audible, "you're not alone." Anna met his gaze calmly, yet her eyes swam with an ocean of joy and exhilaration. "There is no pain," she replied. "I am not alone." The boy looked at Alexander with open curiosity. There was something so profoundly familiar in his gaze that Alexander found himself holding his breath. "This is Alexei," Anna stated simply. Victoria, noticing the unusual dynamic, approached them slowly, a wary and questioning look in her eyes. "Who is Alexei?" she inquired, her gaze shifting between Anna and the child. Alexander remained silent. He studied the boy, and a disquieting premonition began to creep into his soul. The child's features were far too familiar, too closely resembling his own, and palpable tension mounted with each passing second. "Mom," the boy called out softly, his hand tightening its grip on Anna's. "I can play now." Anna gently stroked his head, a gesture imbued with such tenderness that it caused Alexander's heart to ache. Victoria was the first to break the strained silence. "What's happening?" The question hung in the air, sharp as the sound of crystal striking marble. Alexander felt his reality slowly but inexorably shifting. The solemnity of their wedding day was dissolving, giving way to something far more profound and significant. In that very moment, he understood that his life was about to change irrevocably, right here in this hall. A tense silence enveloped the room. The assembled guests stood frozen, sensing that something of momentous consequence was about to unfold, and little Alexei gazed at Alexander with unreserved openness, devoid of fear, displaying a childlike spontaneity capable of dismantling any barrier. Time itself seemed to suspend. Alexander looked at the young boy standing beside Anna, and something within him stirred. A vague premonition, inexplicable yet undeniable, washed over him. Alexei stood composed, a hint of apprehension in his demeanor, yet his curiosity was evident. His brown eyes were an exact mirror of Alexander's own. Victoria perceived the abrupt alteration in her husband. Her perfectly coiffed hair and flawless bridal makeup stood in stark contrast to the sudden tension radiating from him. She moved towards him, her hand tapping a rhythmic, almost imperceptible beat on the marble floor of the wedding hall. "What is happening?" she whispered, clutching Alexander's arm, but he remained oblivious. His entire focus was fixated on the boy. Alexei was attired in a smart suit, clearly selected with considerable care. Anna stood beside her son, her hand resting protectively on his shoulder. "Who is this boy?" he asked, striving for a calm tone. Anna remained silent, her gaze steady and unwavering, though Alexander detected a subtle tremor in her hand. "His name is Alexei," she repeated, her voice firm. A profound silence descended upon the hall. The guests who had convened to celebrate a wedding were now captivated by the unfolding drama. Murmurs began to rise like the gentle lapping of waves. "Alexei," Alexander repeated. "And who is his father?" Anna's gaze met his, and a silent plea seemed to pass between them. Not wanting to answer this question, Alexander pressed on. "Anna, if you don't explain what's happening, I cannot bear this," he stated, attempting to project confidence, though his voice betrayed him with a tremor. She looked at him, and a flicker of emotion, anger, apprehension, or perhaps sorrow crossed her eyes. Alexander insisted, "No, it will all come out soon." "He is your son," she finally declared, lowering her gaze. The impact was so profound that Alexander felt the very ground beneath him give way. Victoria let out a choked gasp, her carefully constructed bridal makeup beginning to smudge. Her eyes darted from her mother to Alexander. "6 years ago," Anna stated, her voice quiet yet resolute, "when you chose your career over our family, I was left to face it alone. I gave birth to our son and raised him by myself." Alexander experienced an internal upheaval of unprecedented magnitude. Memories he had long suppressed now erupted like an avalanche. Their final conversation, Anna's tears, his cold, calculated detachment. "Why didn't you say anything?" he demanded. "Were you too preoccupied to notice anything beyond your business?" Anna retorted. Victoria, who had remained silent until this point, suddenly erupted into hysterical laughter. "What kind of joke is this? Today is my wedding day, and suddenly a child appears." But Alexander no longer heard her. His gaze was fixed on Alexei. The boy remained calm and curious, showing no apparent distress at the unfolding events. "Hello," Alexander said softly. "Hello," Alexei replied. In that instant, Alexander understood that his life would never again be the same. The wedding, conceived as a testament to his achievements, had transformed into an awakening. The air in the wedding hall grew thick with tension. A maelstrom of thoughts swirled through Alexander's mind: anger, bewilderment, and a sudden, unexpected paternal tenderness. "How could you conceal the existence of a son from me?" he repeated, his voice quivering with suppressed emotion. Anna, maintaining a composure that was clearly difficult, answered firmly, "You were too consumed by your career, Alexander. When I became pregnant, you were completely engrossed in your work. I attempted to communicate this to you, but you weren't listening." Alexei, standing nearby, regarded his father. His eyes, wide with curiosity and a hesitant hope, mirrored Alexander's own features, the same cheekbones, the same observant gaze. Absolute silence reigned in the hall. The guests who had gathered to celebrate a wedding now found themselves transformed into a congregation of onlookers. They were all fixated on Alexander. Victoria's hysterical cries intensified. "What is happening here? This is a disgrace. How can you orchestrate such a scene on our wedding day?" Alexander turned, his gaze directed at her, cold and decisive. "The wedding is cancelled. Victoria, I cannot proceed with the marriage knowing I have a son I never knew about." Victoria turned pale. Her meticulously crafted plans, her ambitious strategy for a union of convenience, were disintegrating before her eyes. "You've lost your mind," she shrieked. "We've invested so much money, so much effort. You can't just call everything off." But Alexander no longer paid heed. His attention was wholly absorbed by Alexei. He slowly knelt to be at eye level with his son. "My name is Alexander. I am your father." Alexei, displaying a slight embarrassment but no fear, offered a smile. "I know. Mom has told me a great deal about you." Tears welled in Alexander's eyes. Years of professional success, endless meetings, negotiations, and ambitions suddenly seemed utterly insignificant compared to this small individual gazing at him with an open heart. Her expression was a complex mixture of pride, pain, and cautious optimism. She understood that this moment could herald a new beginning or signal a definitive end. The guests continued to whisper amongst themselves. The photographers, abandoning their focus on the ceremony, feverishly clicked their shutters, capturing the extraordinary turn of events. Alexander stood, drawing Alexei closer. His heart now harbored a sentiment that transcended mere ambition and success. "We need to talk," he said to Anna. And in that moment, he knew with absolute certainty that his life would never again be the same. The morning light gently permeated the living room of Anna's apartment. Alexander sat opposite, his gaze fixed on the figure of his son, who was engrossed in assembling a construction set on the floor. The intervening 6 years of lost time seemed to scream in the profound silence. "How did you learn to assemble such intricate models?" Alexander inquired, attempting to mask his inner excitement. Alexei looked up. His brown eyes, a perfect replica of his father's, regarded him with keen attention. "My mother taught me. She says it's important to read extensively and to be patient." Anna, standing by the kitchen window, spoke softly. "If you'll permit me, I wish to be patient." Anna turned slowly, her gaze stern, yet deep within her eyes lay a glimmer of hope. Fatherhood, she understood, was more than mere presence. It entailed daily support and attentive listening. Alexander realized that his journey toward atonement had just commenced. Victoria, his former fiancée, had already disseminated a flurry of irate messages to her acquaintances, attempting to portray him in a negative light. However, at this juncture, such actions held no significance. Alexei presented him with the completed model airplane. "Would you like to see it? I assembled it all myself." In that moment, Alexander experienced a sensation utterly foreign to him. Truth, though fragile, was undeniably real. "Let's build something together," he proposed to his son. Anna observed them, allowing herself a cautious measure of hope. Alexander understood that the path to rebuilding trust would be arduous, yet for the first time in many years, he felt he was moving in the correct direction. His former existence, the offices, the contracts, the relentless pursuit of success, now seemed like a distant, almost ethereal mirage. The present was here, beside his son, offering the possibility of a fresh start. "I want to be a part of your life," Alexander stated quietly. "If you'll allow me." Alexei smiled, and in that smile resided everything: hope, forgiveness, and a timid anticipation of the future. From that day forward, embarking on his new life, he continued to meet with Anna, intent on cultivating a healthy relationship with her and their son. The three of them, united, created a powerful bond, a nascent partnership embarking on its initial voyage. Each dawn, Alexander came to realize that setbacks and triumphs were merely fleeting instances. Nevertheless, the genuine richness of existence resides in the affection his father held for him, even in repose, a sentiment that, had it not been so, would have been absent from his life. He rejoiced that, notwithstanding his missteps, his existence had attained a greater completeness. He now possessed not merely a patrimony, but the companionship he had long desired, and even in the face of challenges, each unfolding day ushered in optimism and illuminated a fresh, essential direction.